All right, there's your key.
All right, you guys, good morning. 2 mornings in a row. What the heck is going on here? This is RAGIN with Samuel Vera, and he's got a Kickstarter going on right now. Forbidden Rude Awakening. No kidding. Episode 34. We'll be right back after this.
Raging.
Good morning, everybody. So, this is Raging with Samuel Vera. Catch Da Craze. You might know him from Forbidden Rude Awakening, which is on Kickstarter right now. Hey, wherever it is that you're tuning in from, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. We are simulcasting to Geek Insider, Comics in More New Jersey, Indie Volt, as well as Raging AVC. Let me drop the card here so we can say hello and put Sam in the position of honor up in the corner.
Oh, snaps. What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Good morning, Sam. Hey, I don't wake up for just anybody, okay? Seriously. I even showered for you.
I even showered. Yes. She says, I'm not going to shave, but I'll shower.
I shave for no one.
I shave for no one.
Yeah, so good morning. Good morning. You even said that you are a morning person back from the gym, so you had your workout and everything.
Yes.
Life is kind of topsy-turvy for you right now. You said that you've been packing, getting ready for a big move, not just a little move, not just a move down the corner, a big move.
Very cool.
You've got a campaign going on right now.
Yes.
How are you, besides the workout, how are you handling the stress of all of that?
I take my dogs. It's my dogs ground me. Because when they look at me with those adoring eyes, it just makes me just relax. Because there are moments where I just want to like go crazy, and then I have my Yorkie. His name is Milo, and he has one eye. But when he looks at me with that one eye, he just stares, and the way he nibbles on my cheek, it is just the most adorable thing, and that grounds me. It just helps me just relax, because there are moments that throughout this process, it's been the past 30 days just been crazy. A lot of phone calls, a lot of moving parts. Talks with attorneys and brokers and listing agents and all this other stuff and packing. And then the podcast, and then doing conventions. I just came from a convention. I'm getting ready for another convention, and then I'm pimping myself on all these podcasts. So I'm the pimp and the streetwalker at the same time. So it's like, get my money. I'm coming. So it's like I'm trying to balance it all. It's been crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have recently gone through a move, and it just seems like pretty much the majority of the people that we've talked to have either just moved or getting ready to move, or they're going, yeah, I think I really need to move.
Yes, it's just been nuts.
Next.
Yeah, Nita's like, I might have to be doing this after MegaCon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, MegaCon, Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
Now tell us about the convention. You said you were just at a convention. What was that like?
It was it's been a while since I've done a convention. So I've been out of the game for 10 years, and I came back and I did a small little local show called Kids Comic Con. It was at a college, just to get my feet wet. And but then COVID struck. I had plans for last year. It was going to be the breakout year and the comeback, and then COVID said, nope, get your ass back in the house. So I was like, all right. So this year I had a budget because when my company went belly up, I was working in the retail world for a while, and when it went belly up, from December 5th, I decided we had a family meeting. I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to go after my goals. And I'm going to, that was December 5th was my first day of being a brokepreneur. Right. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go after it. Let's see what happens. And then it was tough because no one was doing shows. So we did PowCon, and that wasn't a good example. It concerned me because the attendance was limited, um, and it was a weird setup environment, and so it just concerned me. It's like, oh, is this how it's going to be? I said, did I make the right decision? So
Mm.
everyone was talking about doing Terrificon, and I looked at it as big, but it was beyond my budget because I applied for New York Comic Con. I said I'm not going to spend the same amount of money at Terrificon that I've never been to versus New York Comic Con, which is guaranteed to get and it's closer for me. I don't have to spend money on a hotel. Um, and if I did Terrificon, I'd drop nearly $2,000. I would have to drop $2,000 between hotel and travel and everything else. And I was like, to make that up, I'd really have to work that whole weekend. Um, and there's no guarantee.
Mhm.
So I was just looking, and I found ZoloCon. I never heard of it. I said, "What's a ZoloCon?" And so I looked it up. It was a collector show. It's really toy collector show, but they had an artist alley, and they dropped the price to 150, and it was Bucks County, PA, an hour and a half drive from where I am. I said, "You know what? I'm going to do it." I said, "Worst case scenario, I drive to, drive back, drive to, drive back. I don't have to spend a hotel." And so then Jonathan, I asked him, "You want to be my road dog?" He said yes. So he came. I said, "You know what? We'll get a hotel." And I got the hotel the night before, and it was the worst. It was Motel 6, and it was horrible. But and so we go there, and it's in a former NASA center, space center, where they prepared astronauts for G-force. And so they put them in a pot, and it spins around the entire building really fast.
Nice.
So it's a dome. And so and in the center, they have a round pillar. So they had the artists around the center of the pillar, and they had all of the vendors surrounding that, and they had multiple aisles. So you go in circles, but you're guaranteed to go back and hit somebody. And where they put me, you have the two ways to get to in the aisle, but I also had a direct aisle facing me, my table. So it was perfect. The artists were amazing. They were fantastic painters and sculptors, and the vendors were dope. And the reception was crazy. I didn't expect it, and it was everything that I had, from "There's an Alien in My Toilet" to "Catch Da Crazees" to Forbidden. Forbidden was flying off the table, and then my original art. So I was like, okay, this reinforced my belief in I'm doing the right thing, because I made a lot of new fans, friends, connections, and I felt really good about it. It was even the horrible hotel couldn't put a damper on the experience. It just made for good banter on the show when we talked about the blood on the walls in the hotel and all this other stuff. But it was definitely one of those crazy locations. But yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah. So now you mentioned something about 10 years away. That is a chunk of time. That is a generation.
Yeah.
Um, but it also alludes to the fact that you were doing this before the 10-year
Yeah.
break. What was like the make it or break it um, decision? Because I know for me, let me preface this by saying, like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said I had so many goals by the time that I hit 40, and when I hit that age, it was like age specific. I
Right.
was like, okay, I'm going to get all of this done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this accomplished. I wanted to be a world renowned singer. I wanted to be on the opera stages and things like that. And then I hit 40, and I'm like, the only thing that I accomplished is that I haven't killed my children. They've grown. And so at that point, I had to kill that dream. And it was bad. I mean, I was in a deep depression, and I couldn't figure out why until I sat with myself and went, now that's not going to happen. So that was really, really hard for me.
Right.
Did you have a moment like that when you had to kind of pick and choose and say, all right, I can't do this right now, I have to go another path?
Well, yeah. So when I created Crazy Comics, which was my indie publishing company, when we came out, so one of the things I I was very ambitious, very competitive, and everything we did back then, we were first. There was a lot of things we were doing, and so we got a lot of attention. We got a lot of media attention. We were on national TV, radio, all that stuff, the papers, and but everything I was taking everything, my hard-earned money, and investing into my passion project, right? So I was working full time, but putting everything, and I was on the road. I was doing 14 conventions a year. um, we had big giant banners, we had big cutouts, we had all these props, we had uniforms, like we had baseball caps and baseball jerseys as the crew. We went big, and I would send out every week 5 press kits to the media. So I would mail them back then. So I'd have physical copies of all my books plus a press kit, all that stuff. I package it and I'd send out 5 a week in the mail.
Wow.
Spending money on that, and um, so it put a strain on my relationship and on our finances. And there was a point where we were like, look, if we're going to have a nest egg or whatever, we got to stop. You have to make a choice. And then it was that compounded with the fact that a deal with Warner Brothers and Disney fell through. We were taught they were looking at Disney in my toilet, so there was an opportunity, but then they passed on it because leadership changed. And then Pittsburgh Comic Con, it was such a bad experience, that last one, that I was like, I'm done.
Mhm.
I'm walking away. I didn't even make a formal announcement. I just disappeared. Everyone's like, "What happened to Sam?"
Mhm.
And so that was that. Those were the three things that led up to that decision. And then I focused on the real world and the corporate world, and I did really well. I rose up in the corporate ladder. I traveled the world. I did a lot of great things, but there was a void. It was a niche, and I always had my studio set up, but it was just a museum. I
Mhm.
would go in there, look at it, sigh, walk out. And so it was one of those things. And then once things settled off after 10 years, and everything was right and everything was going well, I said, look, I can't be that guy sitting on a rocking chair on a porch staring at the horizons, saying, what if? you
Mhm.
know at least if I died on my own sword, it was on my own terms. And
Right.
so let me so my wife said, go for it. And I said, all right. And so that's when you know George and I met up, and he had some of my props in his basement, so he brought it back, and he's like, and I saw that, and I was like, oh snaps. And I said, hey George, I'm going to bring back the podcast. You down? He said, hell yeah. And at that time with the podcast, I didn't think we were going to do any comic books together, but we're going to do the podcast because we definitely had a great chemistry with the podcast. And then during that whole time with the podcast, I started creating these skits with the crazy man. I put on an afro and bell bottoms and all that stuff, and I created these commercials called "Stop Acting Up." And so then one night I was sitting in the studio by myself, and having a glass of Jack Daniel's Tennessee honey whiskey, and
Mm.
the idea for Catch Da Craze came to my head, and the characters started floating in my head. And so then I commissioned an artist because I didn't like the designs I was coming up with. So I said, "Here, the look of the characters. I needed you to do it in your style." And so he did it. I was like, "Yo, George, guess what?" And then we started talking, and then from that point on, I said, "George, you want to write it?" So we had the plot out, everything, and then he started writing the script. And I said, I'm just going to do the covers for now. We'll commission an artist to do the book, and then after the first volume, I'll take over with the illustrations. And that's how Catch Da Craze was born. But I always knew, but Forbidden was always in the back end, and I knew I was getting ready to launch Forbidden.
Mhm.
So
Now,
I was excited about coming back
well, now tell us a little bit about Forbidden, because this has been a story that's been with you for quite a while,
since 2000.
since 2000.
Yes.
That's I'm like I'm like there's no way that's 21 years ago.
It's a long time. It's a
Like
long time.
what the heck? Okay, so where was Forbidden birthed from? Was it just kind of, I don't know, you're commuting one day, an idea popped into your head? Did you wake up from a dream? I mean, because the idea behind this right now, it just seems like a very epic story, and we're only
Yes.
getting a tiny taste of it right now.
Yeah, you already get a tell you taste. It's the first volume is 168 pages. So
Mhm. Not a tiny taste.
no, so, no. So Forbidden started with Sin, the character Sin, and I started designing. And I was a big indie fan like I am now, but I was a big Image indie fan. I was influenced by a lot of things I was seeing, and so I wanted to create a character to rival them. And I created Sin, and it was in his uniform phase. But then I stopped and I looked at him and I was like, "Why is his name Sin?" I said, "That can't be his birth name. No one's going to give the child name Sin unless they're really, a cult or something." And so I was like, "All right, it's so." I had to figure out his birth name, and the name Starticus just came into my head immediately. I was like, okay, I wrote it down. And I said, okay, that sounds old world. I said, so what was it about it? How did he get the name? He had to do something that was just devastating. And so that's how I started building on the story. Well, something against the family. What was it? And then I started designing his father, Lord Vox. And that's how that came into play. So all right, I say, what does he have against his father? Well, his father's trying to protect the family from this curse. They remain on the ground. So that so the son being influenced by his love interest, and that's how Ares came in. So if everything's good and they've been underground, they know nothing else but being underground. Then where would he get this information from? How would he get planted the idea to want to go to the surface? And so there had to be that third party. Who was that? It was Ares. So so that's when I put this is his love interest. So that love blinds you, right? So then now does it end there? No. So who's caught in the middle? The sibling, the sister, right? So it's a man's world on the ground, right? Only men can rule, but you have a powerful, strong woman that is caught between her father and her brother, and she must choose sides. And she's the voice of reason. She's the most strategic. She's the most brave. But so what happens is, and so that's how it started building it. And so, all right, so now, why were they underground to begin with? They had to be cursed. There had to be something that caused them to go and hide underground and never to want to go to the surface again. And that's when I started going backwards. So I went backwards before I went forward. And so it started out with, all right, here's a race of people that roamed the surface of the earth centuries ago. And they were broken into hunters, farmers, warriors. And so the hunters went looking for food, and they went into a forest that they knew they shouldn't have gone into. And they were immediately attacked by creepers, the entities and the creepers are led by Nokron, who's an evil force. And so one escapes, he makes it back. And so at nightfall, a figure shows up and says, "Give us back that who desecrated our land, and no harm will come to you." They chose not to. So by morning, they started burning from the sun, and the only thing they can do is escape on the ground and go into the caverns and never to be seen again.
Wow.
And that's how it began. And so if we fast forward to the future, where Sin comes in, because when I designed them, it was modern. So I said, all right, so what does that modern piece have to do with the old world? So the world's evolved. So now Nokron has also evolved in the form of David Hunter, who's this billionaire mogul, and his goal is to take over the globe. But prophecy states that his plans will be thwarted at the hands of the son of Vox, risen from the underground, from the caverns. So now, issue 0, which we launched in Indiegogo, kicked off with the son challenging his father. The opening scene is, the father saying enough. And he's like, "How do you know this curse still exists? We've been down here." So the father locks up his son. He imprisons him. So the son, with the aid of his love interest, fights his way out, committing the ultimate sin and spilling blood against his people. And then he goes. So now this issue, which is right now on Kickstarter, takes off. You find out, did he make it out the caverns? What happened? And in this issue, the Nokron is alerted that the son of Vox is risen, and so now they must find him and stop him.
Wow, that's pretty epic. Now, the way you're describing it, though, you're describing it as a writer. I mean, when you're describing it, I totally see prose, but
Yes.
you're also an artist. You're a writer. You're an artist. You're a podcaster. You're doing it all. When it comes to kind of scripting this out, do you imagine it in panels or do you write it out? What is that like for you?
My process started with the plot. Right, I plotted it out. So I started with Kissin, and then I worked backwards, and every character was birthed from that process. And it was fact finding. It was me just asking me questions, almost like I was interviewing myself. And then once I've had the plot and all of the characters, the prime characters in the bios, I write out all their bios and I write their history. And then now once I know exactly what my start, middle, end is going to be, then I start scripting out. So I write the script as if I'm going to draw it. So I put a tons of detail. So I write it in panel forms. Page one, 5 panels. Panel one, bird's eye view, blah blah blah, and I put the captions and the dialogue and who's talking to who. Um, so and when I wrote Forbidden, I had the Bible. I call it the Bible, which is the entire history, all the character, bios, and I had the first two scripts in a book, and I just left it because I started illustrating it, and I didn't like. I knew immediately I wasn't the right artist to do it. I was like, no, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to find. I don't. Some say I have an ego, but not when it comes to art. I was like, this is too important for me. I got to get somebody who can actually capture the look that I'm trying to envision here. And so I waited. I waited. I wasn't actively looking for an artist. I waited, and I started. I was producing a book called Cosmic Wars, and we ran into an artist at a Star Wars convention, which was a dumb idea for us to do a Star Wars convention, and because no one wanted to see what we were doing, and we ran into Anibal Arroyo, who's an artist. And he was actively serving in the military at the time, and he was there, and he had his portfolio, and he was hoping to get portfolio reviews, and that's how we connected. And initially, he was starting on a book called Street Journal that Jonathan Syfax had written. But then that didn't work out. So then I said, all right, look, this kid's too talented. I think he'll be perfect for this. So I said, hey, I have the scripts done. I have the character designs. I have everything. Do you want to do it? He said, sure. So I pulled out the Bible. There's a big binder. And I said, here. And he was like, holy crap, and it was already done. And again, for me, I wasn't thinking about anything other than writing my best work and making it as simple to interpret as possible. So if you're somebody looking at the script as an artist, you can easily understand what without having to ask me questions. And then when you have the character designs, all you have to do is interpret the character that look. And so that's what Anibal did. He did a great job with. Initially, he gave me the designs. I said, your designs are beautiful. Go with it. And then he would just give me thumbnails for the pages. And he says, what do you think? And I think during that whole process, I might have made maybe 3 or 4 call outs with the thumbnails. But he ran with it, and I just let him do his thing because I'm an artist as well. So I was like, I'm not, I respect his craft enough to not have to stand over his shoulders. I know that he's going to give it his best work. And so I didn't, oh,
Lost your leg there.
yeah, sorry. Am I there still?
No, you're good.
Okay, so I don't know what happened. My screen just changed. Yes. So I was just very pleased with what he did.
Well, okay, so putting together this binder, doing the character profiles, doing the research, putting together this entire world, that is something that people do. And not even veteran, like not all veteran comic book creators do this. Although it sounds like a really good idea. A lot of people don't want to put the work into it. But people don't come out of the gate doing that. Who kind of mentored you and showed you this way? Or is it just how your brain functions?
No, I didn't have a mentor. It's just how my brain functions. I picked up some like I picked up books on the Marvel way. I picked up all different books on script writing, and when I looked at it, I said, "This is be the best way for me to interpret the work when I'm drawing it." Because a lot of times I would write stuff that I knew I schedule my time. So I say, all right, if I'm writing this, I'm working on a book illustrating already, so I'm writing it for the future. I'm writing it as if, so when I go back to it and I have to interpret it, if I'm going to illustrate it, I want to be able to easily understand without having to go back in. What was I thinking? Or, what did I mean here? So I write it as clear as day, and it helps me also when I'm pitching. If I'm going to pitch a project to try to get an animation, it's easier for me to interpret it into a screenplay when I already have it, because I have the dialogue, I have everything written. I don't have to go back and try to do the work. I can just copy, paste, and adjust. So I do it for multiple reasons, and I'm anal that way. And for me, it's like I need everything in it. Every book that I have in my library has a Bible, has the scripts, has everything, the character designs, just to make it simpler for me.
That is pretty amazing, because I know the way I function is if I took the time to do all of that, I'm like, well, I might as well work on the damn thing right now.
Right.
you know?
Right.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, it's like all or nothing. It's, you take down the notes and stuff. It's like, okay, it's in front of me. I'm going to work on it. So that takes quite a bit of discipline. And yes, I think that that will benefit creators like myself to learn your ways.
It helps. Believe me, it helps me. Even when I went back after 10 years to Forbidden, because at the time I only wrote two scripts, the issues
Mhm.
0 and 1. So when I went back to finish the project, it was easier for me to continue where I left off because I went back, I read the Bible again, I read the scripts, and I said, "Oh, okay." And then I added a few more characters in the process, in the arc that weren't there because it just fit. And it's like, all right, this has to happen because of this, and this has to happen because of this. And but it was just easy for me to take off. I didn't have to go back and struggle with it because everything was there.
Mhm.
And I already I had the rhythm. So I look at everything as beats. So I had the rhythm there. I knew how Viejo speaks, how Shaku speaks, how Deseret speaks, and their tones and mannerisms. So once I got back into it and the character stuff, it's almost as if it was like old friends. We met up again after a certain amount of time, and once we got together, it was just I ran with it from that point on.
Hmm. Now, I want to go back to something that you said earlier, that you said you weren't the right artist.
Right.
Now, we've talked to Rodney Fike on our show, and he is the creator of Pitter Patter, which is also on Kickstarter, but he also writes Roadkill Rampage. And when we were talking to him, he says, yeah, I'm not the right artist for that. I wanted to stay within my skill set. What was that like for when do you know when it's beyond you? I mean, because you're as an artist, you're like, yeah, I can do that. But was it difficult for you to kind of let go of that part of your baby and entrust it to somebody else?
Um, there's two questions there. So the
Hmm.
reason why I knew is because it felt like work. It wasn't fun.
Ah, okay.
Because while I admire and I love the style of art that people that fantasy art, I'm a big fan. Fantasy art, I can do it, but it'll take me a lot more time, and it feels like work. Where I shine, it's more of the cartoony style art, and that's where it's fun for me because I can do all these great dynamic poses and reactions, all that stuff, whatever. When I'm doing more serious, I understand that there. So when I'm doing cartoony art, everything is a first look, but I'm doing something that's people have seen before. There's an expectation, and I feel that pressure. There's an expectation on what that genre should look like, or what a sword should look like, or what this. So that means a lot of referring to and studying and going back and reading, and get it. I don't want to half-ass it. So then it becomes work for me, because of all that other stuff, and so then I have to, like, for me, if I'm doing it, like when I was doing that, I had to have like 50 different angles of the sword in a hand, and it's a reference, create my own reference pages so I can go back and flip and say, oh, that's how that's supposed to look here, and that's go outside and take pictures of myself in different poses, to try to get it. And I was like, I gotta find somebody who it just comes natural to, because for me it's just a little too much.
So someone who loves the architecture and the swords and the outfits and everything, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Which is kind of ironic because you spend so much time with building the characters in this world in work and creating this Bible of characters that when it comes to art, you're like, nope, I've expelled my brain on all of this other stuff. You do that. I'm just gonna kind of do my fun stuff over here. I guess in a way, our brain has to have some kind of release and fun too.
Yes.
That's what it seems like. And so we're almost at the 30-minute mark, and I wanted to do a shout out to the people who are tuning in. We've got George Medina, thank you. Christian Basil from the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. We've got Comics Talk with Pops Fans It. Hey, Pops, what's going on? And we've got Daphne Lage, who says just doing a character height chart was life-changing for her. I could imagine how convenient a story Bible would be for me if I wasn't so lazy to make one. I just have piles of sketches and story prompts.
And
Yeah,
the
I
heights
mean,
of her children on the walls.
Right. I mean, we saw a picture of her doing that, and she's like, "Yeah, I mean, he's like 8 feet tall. He's like taller than my ceiling." I was like, "Okay, well, that's kind of cool." As a writer, I've got a lot of writer friends. I had a friend of mine who she was writing kind of a thriller romance and stuff, and she's like, I wonder what it's like to be kidnapped and like tied to a chair. So she literally duct taped herself to a chair, and her husband went walking by, like peeked in the office, saw her tied there, with the duct tape on her mouth and stuff like that. He's like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. So and he's like, okay, carry on.
Wow.
I mean, do
That
you
makes
do
me
you
laugh.
have moments like that where you're totally immersed in this world?
Yeah, I think we all do. I think that's comes part of being a creative. I think you can't help but get lost into what you do, and that's what's the fun part of it. I it doesn't happen as much as it did before back in the early years, but there were times where I would be sitting at a park and all of a sudden this story just comes right in my head. And I'm like,
Hmm.
and so I have to start writing it down. And I'm like, and it's almost as if like a soul that moved on and had unfinished work, and it's like, here, can you do this for me? And just plants it in your head. And I'm like, oh, there's sometimes while I'm just sitting there, I just close my eyes for a second, I see all these character designs, and I'm like, whoa. Um, so I think um, I get lost in like when I'm working on pages of like there's kneeling on my toilet, or when I'm doing, I get excited when I'm doing covers for Catch Da Crazees. Um, and even when I do variant covers for Forbidden, I limit myself to just doing a cover. Um, um, and But I think if you don't do that and don't get lost, and sometimes you have to ground yourself, so I find a way to get out of it. Um, if you don't do that, you're not having fun. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. Let's see. Hey, thank you for tuning in to Raging With. This is episode 34 with Samuel Vera. He's got Forbidden Rude Awakening, issue 1 on Kickstarter right now. I believe that they can catch up as well. But we're going to be right back and talk to him a little bit more about the creative process and what's going on with his Kickstarter. We'll be right back. Hey there, this is Meredith Lochran with RAGIN, and I wanted to let you know that we encourage and promote independent creators and their projects through organic interaction, consultations, and more. Visit Nita and me at RAGINAVC.com for details and contact information. Hit the button. Hey, for a 10% discount on your Gemini mailers, you should go to GeminiComicSupply.com and use coupon code VOLT10. That's right. You want a 10% discount on your Gemini mailers. Save some money. Save your comic books in the shipping process, because you might have a mail carrier like Nita's, and you want to give it some extra love. That's right. GeminiComicSupply.com, VOLT10 to save 10% on your Gemini mailers. We've also got little bastard promos where you can do some shameless self-promotion in there. Drop your links, hit the button. We are back with Samuel Vera. He's got Forbidden Rude Awakening issue number 1 right now on Kickstarter. 9 days to go, and you want to get your butt over there and get that in your
Certainly
hot
love.
hand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes. This is an epic story. Can people get caught up, because you said something about Indiegogo?
Uh-huh.
Issue 0 was there.
Yes.
Now, okay, let me rewind a little bit, because I got excited. I got excited. All right, issue number 1 is out on Kickstarter right now. You had issue 0. Are they kind of standalone, or is this the beginning of a story arc and we need all the pieces? Of
You need all
course,
the
we want
pieces.
all the pieces.
You won't understand issue 1 without 0. It's the 168 pages is broken down into. Hear me?
Yep, we could hear you.
The 168 pages is broken down into 6 parts, and it started with 0. And so I started on Indiegogo because we had Catch Da Crazees on Kickstarter, and I didn't want to confuse anybody. And I wanted to test the waters with Indiegogo. I've never done it. And so then the feedback was bring it to Kickstarter. So I said, all right. So in Kickstarter, you can get issue 0 as well. But if you pick up one without 0, you're going to be lost. Yeah, because you need to understand what happened before that. Um, so that's the reason why I'm on Kickstarter now.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And we are going to pull that up here for a moment. Let me just, normally I have that set. Here
You
we
got it?
go. Share it. Yep, I do. I do. Okay. So we're not going to do the bullet points or anything like that. A lot of, I'm sure you've done that plenty of times. I would love to play the video, though, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so for everybody who's tuning in, Forbidden Rude Awakening issue number 1. We are on Kickstarter. He's got 33 backers right now, 9 days to go. Let's push this. You can hit the button. It's really easy to share it out if you with your friends, especially if you've already supported it. But I love the tagline at the top. He sinned against his family, chose dishonor to challenge a curse. He will learn why they remained underground for centuries. That is so good. It's so good. It's just like it's like wow, so many questions, and that's the thing that you want people to do is have questions and go,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to find the answers within these pages.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
And that piece there was done by a fantastic gaming fantasy artist named Eric Ifata. And the guy, again, the book is the entire 168 pages is done. Right. The only thing that's happening right now is the pages are being colored, and that's why I do the Kickstarters because she's on page 75 right now coloring. It's a young lady named Barbara. But this guy, so I commissioned him. That'll be the cover for the graphic novel when it's collected. That's
Very
the
nice.
wraparound cover, so that's only one side of it. And he was just fantastic. And all of that I paid before I even thought about Kickstarter. So the artists were paid before that.
I love that. It is the way that I'm going to go moving forward. We were talking with Daphne Leish and JD Calderon, and they've always, when they're kickstarting or crowdfunding, they've got the proof in hand. They're like, the book is done. You know, uh, we want the printing costs, the shipping costs, and things like that, but it is done. And I think that takes out a lot of the stress
Yes.
of people who are looking at that deadline, right? I'm not good with a timer. I see a timer and all of a sudden I feel that stress, and it's just like, you're vibrating with it. It could be good, it could be bad, I don't know.
Right.
But you're looking at that countdown, and when it's not done and you still have to, create pages or still a letter, that's that extra level of stress when you've got everything else in the world going on, like you
Yeah.
do.
Yes, and I backed the campaign last year that they're still not done with it, and it ended in November. So
Wow.
that's a bad look when you're an independent. People, pledge to support you because they want to give you a chance,
Mhm.
and so if you can't commit to the deadlines that you impose yourself, that's not a good look. And so I want to make certain, and even like with Catch the Crazies, we made certain that we got it out early. So we might say you're going to get it in this month, but everybody's gotten it earlier than our time frame because we put on our customer service hats, right? We say thank you so much for supporting us. So we're going to work hard to make sure you get everything on time or earlier.
Mhm.
And it's just important, I think, especially when you're independent, because we have a stigma about us, and inconsistent, never finishing a project, all these things, and I don't want to contribute to that stigma.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really important too. And it probably comes from being in retail, working it, um, managing it, uh, that you want to, what's the term I'm looking for? Uh, Under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, yes, yes. It's
It's always good policy.
yes, the customer has to be the center of the universe, and that's the way I look at the people who contribute to, because they don't have to. And there's so many options. There's so many talented people and out there, and George and I back a lot of projects, and it's when someone's taking a chance on you, the least you can do is make sure you deliver on time.
Hmm.
Yes.
So when you're putting together your Bible of characters and
Give me one
history,
second. I'm sorry. Can you play the trailer, and so I can just
sure.
my movie company's calling me.
Okay, yep, I
Sorry.
can do that.
Thank you.
Here we go.
I created Forbidden back in 2000. In 2005, it was well received by critics and fans alike at Comic Cons and local stores. My goal for Forbidden was to create an epic fantasy tale that would last for generations. I recruited a local artist, Ani Balaroyo, who took the helm on illustrating the first 2 issues, and only 2 issues back then. After over a decade in limbo, it was time to finish Forbidden and reintroduce it to the world. Deep within the Earth's core lies a race that has existed for thousands of years. A race who are forbidden from walking the surface of the Earth due to a curse cast upon them by the evil known as Nakron. Centuries later, the world has evolved, and so has Nakron, in the form of David Hunter, a billionaire whose intention is to dominate the globe. Legend has it that one day the son of Vox will rise from the ashes of the Earth to destroy all that Nakron has built. And that could never happen.
Well done on the video, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very epic.
And I
And
apologize for that. The moving company's dropping off the pods today, and he was trying to get a hold of me.
well, that's important, right? Yeah. Especially if you're in the middle of a move. All of these moving parts, you guys, you have no idea. I don't know how you're keeping it all together because I've been through that just recently and it's not easy.
No, it's not fun either.
Yeah. So tell us more about this story arc. How many more are we looking forward to? Because you said that this is over 140 pages.
168 pages.
This issue alone. I
No,
mean,
this issue is 27 pages.
27 pages. Okay, so
Yeah.
the entire thing when you put it together for the trade paperback.
Yes.
What is your plan for that? Okay, here, let me go back a little bit.
Sure.
So we've talked to people and they've had these big plans, right? We've had somebody who said, I have 100 issues in my head. We've had some that said 50. And a lot of times that big picture seems so overwhelming at times. You're like, holy cow, I made that public. Now I feel obligated to make it happen.
Right.
And I tell Nita all the time, it's like, it's like we have this big plan. We see, it's so huge. It's like the elephant. Like I can't eat the entire thing. I was like, but you can, one bite at a time.
Right.
Yeah. So does it ever feel too big? Or is this something because you've been working on it for so long, it's been part of you for like 20 years that that you're like, hey, you can kind of sit back and go, yeah, wait till you see what I've got.
Yeah, it doesn't feel big because it's done. Right? So the 168 pages are inked, lettered, and they're in the process of being colored. So this Kickstarter pays for production and continues to pay the colorist. And so issue 1 is done as far as packaged, ready to go. Issue
Nice.
2 is completely colored and lettered and packaged, ready to go. So the first 3 issues of this series are packaged, ready to go. So we're working on the other 3. By the time December comes, the entire project's going to be completely done. So for me, it doesn't feel big because I started this before, when I decided to get back in the game is when I started 2 years ago, and I had an artist finish the project. And so I knew that everything. So I'm patient. I'm patient with, because there's a lot of projects that we have in the pipeline for the future. So I'm patient with a lot of that stuff because I look at everything in baby steps, which is why I didn't want to bring Forbidden to Kickstarter when we had Catch Da Crazees, which is why I went on Indiegogo. And I wanted to build two separate audiences, and then hopefully merge the two long term, and they became fans of my work rather than the specific projects. So that's been the goal because I'm trying to catch up for the 10 years of lost time where all the people that followed us back then have moved on with their lives. So now I'm trying to build a new audience, which is a lot harder in this very noisy competitive field. And so I'm not trying to dominate the globe. What I'm trying to do is just get people to take a chance with a book, with a guy that just came out of nowhere. Because for to everybody else, who is this guy? He just came out of left field. But I've been in the game for a while. They don't know that. So take a chance on this. I've worked with a lot of talented creators. There were 5 artists on this project, from cover artists to interiors. And it's a lot of heart and soul, and everybody that worked on it really truly believes in it. I mean, one of the things from the colorist, because I just sent her the pages without the dialogue, and she's like, I want to read this book. And so she's getting the final copies. She's getting physical copies as well, just as an incentive, because outside of getting paid. But it has so much heart in it. Each character has purpose in it. I put a lot of time and energy on making sure that they complemented each other, that they were there for a reason. I wasn't trying to capitalize on any gimmicks. When I wrote this before there were trends. I wrote this, just for me. So now I'm excited to be able to share it. And so for me, it's trying to get into as many hands as possible. Which is why if you don't know Forbidden, and there's a $10 level where you can get issue 0 and 1 digital, but if we get to 50 backers, you'll get a physical trading card, the Darkness trading card, if we get to 50 backers. So that's an incentive. So you might be a digital backer at $10, but you're going to get something in the mail. And that was something that it was a conscious decision I made to say, you know what, I want to throw in an incentive in there for the people who can't do the $25 pledges, the $30, but they want to read the story, they want to take a chance, but and then it'd be nice to get something in return. And on top of a great story, because I believe 100% it's a really good. It's my best work yet, because I've been working on it for half my life.
Right. Now, I want to go back to what you were saying. Getting back into the game, because you were so involved. You were going to the conventions and things like that, and that was back then. That was the thing that you had to do. Self-publishing really wasn't a thing, and if it was a lot more difficult. There were a lot more hurdles and things like that. We didn't have as many presses that were friendly to indies.
Right.
The attitude was different.
Yes.
So going away from like literally stumping the ground and going to places and kind of being local, to all of a sudden you have this virtual world. We have things like this where you can talk to a worldwide audience. What was that like to kind of emerge and go, oh, is this Oz or hell?
Right. I think, well, back then, yes, there were a lot of walls you had to break down. And back then, there was a lot of grassroots that you had to do. Like, I have all the rejection letters. I got Diamond shutting us down. So we self-distributed. We spoke to every comic book shop and we delivered them ourselves. But so I had to circumvent the norm. So I was like, all right, so if you don't want to talk to me in the arena I'm playing in, I'm going to go outside that arena. So I talked to big media. I talked to Fox News. I talked to, the papers. I talked to radio stations outside of comics. And we were getting publicity outside of comics to promote what we're doing in comics. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go around the system. And so at that time, it was like, whoa, this guy's, doing all these things. Who the hell is he? Right. And so that's what we did because, and that was our way of getting into it. And it helped because and again, it goes back to those press kits that I used to send out. I got invited onto Good Morning San Diego the day of the preview day of San Diego Comic-Con, and we were going to be there. So I'm there, and I got a whole slew of people coming to the convention because they saw us on Good Morning San Diego, and that helped us promote our in-appearance events. Coming back, the games changed so much. So there was several things that changed. I think COVID made it harder. So we came back. Everyone's doing podcasting. When I did podcasting, it was only a handful. It was only a small niche group. It was iFanboy, Comic Geek Speak, Catch Da Craze, right? And so we had a big audience. We had a big listener base, and it was all audio. It was all audio downloads. And coming back, everybody, grandmoms are doing it, cousins, nephews, 2-year-olds are doing podcasting. Everyone's doing podcasting, right? Then COVID made it even worse because now all those other people came in and did podcasting. So now you have to fight harder to get your voice out there, where back then it was easier, and I didn't understand what I was sitting on. We were sitting on a gold, man, didn't realize it. Like giving that up 10 years ago where we would be, I slap myself all the time, right? But so now it's like, holy crap, you are at the bottom of the mountain with a mudslide during a hailstorm and a volcano exploding, right? And you have to try to work your way up, right? Forget about the aliens waiting for the cloud to clear so they could come and attack. So it's like, how do you get to the top of the mountain with all this noise and all this, chaos? And how do you get relevancy and its consistency? So George and I sat down and we said, all right, we're going to structure our show. We're going to have an open middle and end. We're going to have purpose with everything we do. We're going to have 30 minutes for the guests. We'll talk about industry related topics. We'll get your meds. And then we do what we do best, and we play off each other with comedy. And ride or die, you're going to love us or hate us. But that we're going to stay consistent. We're not going to follow in trends. We don't capitalize on what's happening with Marvel or with DC. That's not our niche. We really focus on us, the independent, our community. Whether you're an artist, a writer, a dancer, a singer, if you're an independent trying to make your way in this world, that's what we focus on. Same thing with the books, the comic books. Then I have to figure out, how do I promote my comic books where everybody's using the same platforms to promote theirs? Yeah. So I'm at the stage where I'm like, the how part, I'm still trying to develop. I'm playing in the same sandbox with everybody else, and I'm just trying to figure out where's that path that no one's looked at yet? I'm trying to find that while staying focused and consistent. I post every day like a madman. And, I post on, I don't know, like 30 communities on Facebook. I'm on TikTok and Twitch and Snapchat and Tumblr and Reddit. Anywhere that I can post, I'm there. And it's exhausting sometimes, but that's the medium that we have to use now. But I know that there is another way, and I'm just trying to find that. So I look at it like, hopefully this downtime, once I settle in with the move, I can figure what that is, because but I believe now the conventions are so important because you have to connect with the people. They have to see you face to face. People want to physically touch the book. They want to see who the creator is. Most people will back you because they like you, and they want to take a chance on you and give you a book. They might not be interested in that genre, but you know what? I like that person, so I'm going to give you a chance. And then hopefully that chance meant, I really like this book. I want the next one. So it's a matter of, if you put your heart and soul into it, and you just focus on your passion and your projects, and don't change what you're doing because of opinions, and just focus on putting out the best work that you can possibly do. Hopefully people will embrace what you did, and they will recognize that passion. And that's my belief. I try not to follow any trends. I just try to be me.
That is so important because, one of the common themes that I say all the time is that people connect with people. They don't connect with things. And so if you're not a jerk, if you're a decent human being, if you're helping others and not tearing people down, having that social media presence that's fairly positive or informative, I think that helps, because then people are going to be like, oh, who's this guy? I like his messaging. I like his art. I like what he's sharing out on the social media. There's so many people who are really bad about marketing themselves. They want to stay busy because they're like, I'm an artist. I want to art. or I'm a writer. I just want to write.
Right.
That they're not thinking about the greater world and like, well, how are they going to connect? So it seems like between your podcast, what you're doing on social media and everything, all of those things are eventually going to come together where you find people who will latch on to one of your IPs, whether it's Catch Da Craze, whether it's a Forbidden, and from there, once they hear the passion behind your project, the time and effort that you put into it, and then going through the pages and going, oh, then they turn from, I think, casual fans into advocates.
Yeah.
So I think you're really close. And quite honestly, when right before the shutdown, when I first started with Geek Insider, that was about November of 2019. Yeah. And I saw you starting to pop up with your podcast and stuff. I'm like, who's this guy? Because you were doing everything right. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I think Ray Felix is an artist and podcaster. He said, "You came out of nowhere like you never left," and I think it was just a conscious thing. It was just, let's just do what we do, and hopefully. And the great thing about it, a lot of the people that were supporters of us from back then came back, which was wow. That was the biggest form of flattery for us, and a great way, for us to like. It's just reinforced what we're doing because there are moments where like, but I think the best advice I can give anybody: don't focus on subs, don't focus on likes, focus on quality, focus on content. That's it. Because you can get lost in trying, and that happened to us the first few months. Like I was so focused on subs and likes, and I was like, "What am I doing?" I was like, "Stop, Sam, stop. Just this wasn't important to you back then. You were having fun, and people embraced it." So then, once I got rid of that mindset, I said, "All right, we're just gonna focus on the content and have fun." And that's it. And then hopefully the universe says, "You know what? You've put in the legwork. We're gonna throw you a bone," and the followers start coming. Because I think everything is, output will generate input, right? It's what you put out to the universe is what comes back to you. And if you're not being truthful to yourself and you're not having fun and you're doing it because you have an agenda, we all want to be successful. Nobody goes into anything without not wanting to be successful. But I think success comes from work and work ethic.
Yeah. And the passion to stay consistent and keep going. Keep going, because I mean, you're going through a lot of stuff right now, but you keep showing up to the shows. You keep posting on the social media, and I think it's a testament to character as well. It's like, okay, this is a guy that I can trust, that is going to deliver my books and give me quality product. So, thank you, because that is a good example for what people should be doing.
Right.
Now, I have to ask you, because we're almost at our hour. Tell me about there's an alien in my toilet. I gotta know where I can get this book.
Here he is. The graphic novel is available on my website.
Put that up again.
It's right here. His name is Duty. He's from the planet Uranus.
Nice.
And he is. I love Duty. So
I do too. Yeah. I do too.
Yes. He was the one that I was in talks with to get an animation deal and didn't go through. Yes, but at ZoloCon, Duty resurfaced because the people came in droves and they picked up the books. And so basically, his name is Dudarius, his long name, and Duty. And so he is the thorn in the general's side on the planet Uranus, but the general has to babysit him because his father is the ruler of Uranus. And so the general sends him off on a fool's errand, right? And Duty thinks he's the smartest thing in the universe. So he doesn't realize that he's being set up. He says, go to this planet Earth and figure out if they're a threat to us and get back to us. So he goes and he gets on his ship with his ego, really praising himself. He's his biggest fan. And he gets on the ship and then he realizes he forgot to refuel. And so he crash lands. And from that moment on, he has to survive Earth's simple creatures like squirrels and wolves and turtles. And then he makes it into a house. And there's a Chihuahua named Herman in the house who thinks Duty is a talking jalapeno. And so, then there's this son named Bobby who thinks he saw an alien in the toilet. And so he embarrasses his father when he has friends over. Now at work, the father's the butt of jokes with his friends, and the father thinks his son's going crazy. And the dog is always being put in the cage because he's barking and trying to go after this alien. And the government's after trying to track down where the crash site was. So now Duty has to try to survive. And every time Duty, I'll give you a little insight. Every time Duty so somehow gets unconscious, he got attacked by red ants. So he tries.
Oh no.
He tries to shake off the red ants, and he runs and he hits a tree. He knocks himself out. In his dream state, he imagines himself as a samurai fighting red ninja. So he's the victor in his dreams, but in reality, he's always getting whooped. So that's and this has the first 5 issues of the story plus a bonus issue of Hi, I'm Duty from Uranus, where he comes back to Earth because they think Santa Claus is the ruler of Earth and he has to infiltrate Santa's camp and take him out.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So that's
Yeah. I need all of these IPs in my life. I'm telling you, especially that one.
Right.
I'm such a delinquent. I really am. Don't let
Yes.
this fool you.
What's crazy is that I've done nothing with it for over 10 years. So when I did ZoloCon, I went to my basement. I was like, oh my God, I have all these copies. So I just said, let me take them with me, and it was just selling. And I was amazed. It's like, oh, and I have plans for Duty in 2022. But I want to complete the Forbidden Saga and Catch the Crazies. But George and I have plans. Like, George is the creator of Wonder Duck and Rush 5377. And so there are plans next year for our individual projects on top of our collective, which is Catch the Crazies. So Duty will have a comeback. And thanks to the fans at ZoloCon, everybody who picked up the book and gave me amazing feedback about the story.
Very cool. So now, with you kind of moving, you're relocating and stuff like that. What does the rest of your year look like as far as conventions and things? Are you attending any?
Yeah, so I'll be at EternalCon on the 7th and 8th, and it's in Long Island. And I will also be on a panel with the comic book school, Buddy Scalera, and Ari. And we'll be at a panel creating characters and I forget, compelling characters. And we're going to be taking the feedback from the audience and designing the characters and the story around the characters in a 90-minute panel. So I'll be doing that at EternalCon, but you can find me in Artist Alley there. And you can also get Forbidden Issue 0 at EternalCon there as well. And as well as Designating My Toy and Catch the Crazies. Then I'll be on a virtual panel for AmbientCon at the end of the month. I think it's August 28th. And we're doing a podcasting panel for AmbientCon. And it's a week. It's a few days, the convention virtually. And if you want to attend AmbientCon, which is going to be fire, there's going to be cosplay contest and all this other stuff. Use code CDC4321, CDC4321, and you'll get a discount. And for AmbientCon, so that's going to be dope. And that's going to be the end of 2021 for me, because the month of September I'll be settling in Texas and setting up my new studio and unpacking and all this other stuff and doing all the things you got to do as a citizen and changing your plates and address and
Oh,
all that stuff. And then I'll be illustrating issue 4 of Catch the Crazies when I get to Texas. So on October 1st, I actually start penciling the pages. So you won't see Catch the Crazies issue 4 till 2022. But it's going to be also collected. So you'll be able to get it individually and the first volume collected on Catch the Crazies as well on the next campaign, which will be in 2022.
Okay. Well, we just blew past our hour, and we are going to say goodbye. Sam, it has been a pleasure sitting with you. For anybody who is tuning in, this is Ragin with Samuel Vera. He's got Forbidden Rude Awakening issue number 1, and issue number 0 is also available on his Kickstarter right now. Keep an eye on this guy. Listen to his podcast, Catch Da Craze. And if you are tuning in on our YouTube channels, we are simulcasting to Geek Insider, Comics and More New Jersey, Indie Volt, as well as RAGIN AVC. In the show notes, we've got the links to all of his stuff. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, his podcast on Podbean, as well as the website icreatestories.com. Make sure that you follow him everywhere. Just don't peek in his windows because that's weird. On that note, hey, Nita.
Yo,
Final words.
throw my dudes.
We're out of here, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 34, Raging With. Bye-bye.